When a girl realizes that the boy she's been secretly crushing on actually cares about her too, her emotions can spiral out of control in an instant. That was exactly what happened to Harry. He had assumed he'd been rejected. What he didn't expect was that the girl would instead move closer to him and launch a much more straightforward pursuit. Before long, Harry learned that once summer break ended, Wenders would have to leave the island. He made up his mind to devote the rest of the summer entirely to her. He also hoped Shizuku would join them, and since Shizuku had come to the island for Wenders in the first place, she agreed without hesitation. From that moment on, the three of them felt like their summer had truly begun. One day, Wenders suddenly had an idea, using discarded potato chip canisters to build a simple balcony for the lighthouse. On the way to collect the cans, Shizuku couldn't help asking Harry whether he had fallen for Wenders. Otherwise, why would he give her his entire summer? It was only then, prompted by Shizuku's words, that Harry realized those feelings had already taken shape. Unfortunately, Wenders happened to overhear the conversation when she returned. Embarrassed, she couldn't bring herself to open her eyes and hurried back into her room. Left behind, both Harry and Shizuku took it as a sign of rejection. In reality, Wenders was simply caught in deeper confusion. The next day, she acted as if nothing had happened and continued spending time with Harry as usual. That forced normalcy only made Harry more convinced of what he feared. Soon after, the three of them went together to the shaved ice shop and picked up some potato chips along the way, where they happened to run into a group of local teens. It was then that Harry learned Shizuku was actually the student council president and carried considerable influence on the island. To outsiders, Wenders was always seen sticking close to Shizuku, so Harry fitting into their small circle came as a bit of a surprise. This time, Harry returned carrying a mountain of chips. When Wenders got her favorite marshmallow, she even fed one to Harry herself, catching him completely off guard. In the days that followed, they gathered empty cans to build the balcony while listening to Wenders hum melodies absent-mindedly. The three of them spent the summer carefree and unburdened on the island. One day at the beach, they ran into Naruse. Harry was surprised to see how familiar Wenders was with him. She casually reenacted how the two of them had met, and the ease of their interaction felt almost unreal. Later, they returned to the shaved ice shop again. That was when Shizuku quietly pulled Harry aside and suggested he prepare a gift. After all, summer was almost over. Even if the ending wasn't perfect, there should be something left behind. Harry soon settled on what he wanted to do. On the way back, Wenders suddenly said she wanted to see Harry's place. Someone had told her that the quickest way to grow closer to someone was to step into their room. Harry didn't refuse. When Aunt Mirror saw them, she grew curious about the previous overnight stay. With her help, Harry dug out a German children's songbook from the storage room. After flipping through it, they found the melody Wenders often hummed. Shizuku suggested that since they couldn't understand the lyrics, Wenders could write her own, starting with the thing she loved. Before leaving, Shizuku whispered a secret to Harry, leaving his face flushed red. The three of them joked and laughed non-stop the entire way back. That evening, Shizuku made an excuse to leave, deliberately giving the other two some time alone. Under the setting sun, Wenders finally worked up the courage to confess her feelings. At first, it had only been the affection of friendship, but when Harry said he was willing to give her his entire summer, those feelings crossed a line. To keep herself from falling too deeply, she had pretended nothing was wrong, only to fail completely. Even now, her heart still wouldn't calm down. Yet it all seemed doomed from the start. Once summer ended, they would part ways. She hated the inevitability of that goodbye. Harry told her that even as time passed, his feelings would still be real. From that day on, the two of them were immersed in a happiness they had never known before, until Harry found an old photograph in the storage room. He never could have imagined that the sweet girl in front of him didn't belong to the present. The good news was that none of it had been a dream. The bad news was that just as their romance began, she vanished the very next day. After investigating, they discovered that Wenders had appeared on the island 5 or 6 decades ago, with photographs to prove it. Harry searched desperately but never managed to see her again. Even Shizuku couldn't find a single clue. Among the pile of dolls in the lighthouse, a small teddy bear had appeared identical to the one held by the girl in the photo. As they searched for the truth, Shizuku realized the two of them had already become a couple. She was happy for Harry, yet couldn't help feeling regret. Soon after, Harry learned a crucial fact. Wenders had never truly had a home on the island. She and Shizuku had always met only at the lighthouse. Sensing something was wrong, they asked the elderly woman at the convenience store. She mentioned that it might be a case of Kamikakushi spiriting away. Decades ago, the same thing had happened on the island. A blonde girl had vanished without a trace. Back then, the lighthouse keeper had searched for her just as frantically as Harry was now, and the only person who had known the girl was Harry's late grandmother. The house in the photograph was the villa on the island. They went to the abandoned house and found a diary with the same name, but the handwriting clearly wasn't Wenders's, so the girl in the diary was called Oagame. Decades earlier, she had come to the island with her family to attend school. Because of her blonde hair, she was isolated and rejected. Her only companion was that small teddy bear. Even so, she tried to connect with the world, even using role-playing as a way to assert her existence. Although his first attempt at starting a conversation didn't go well, he unexpectedly met someone crucial, Harry's grandmother. Inside the storage shed at her house were photographs of Oagame. Just as expected, they found old pictures of her there. According to the diary, Oagame couldn't accept the marriage her family had arranged for her and eventually decided to run away with the lighthouse keeper. However, the diary entry stopped on the eve of her planned trip to the lighthouse. At the very end, someone else had added a final note. From that day on, Oagame was never seen again. As the pieces of the mystery slowly came together, Shizuku grew increasingly uneasy. She was afraid they might never find Wenders again. Harry decided to go to the lighthouse and wait. At that moment, a blinding light suddenly flashed. When Harry opened his eyes again, he found himself inside a different room of the lighthouse. The space was completely sealed, with no visible exit. Whether he tried to open a door or go downstairs, he always ended up back where he started. Just then, a person identical to the girl in the photograph appeared before him. At first, Harry thought he had finally found Wenders, but when he recalled Oagame's distinctive way of introducing herself in the diary, he realized the truth. the person in front of him wasn't Wenders at all, but Oagame herself. Harry understood that, like Oagame, he had been guided to this place by some unseen force. Oagame slowly explained that when she went to the lighthouse years ago to elope, she was still bound by her attachments to family and friends. Caught in hesitation, she was brought to this place from which she could never leave. Even now, she still couldn't make a choice. Harry, on the other hand, speculated that if one held firmly in their heart the person they loved, it might be possible to return to the original world. So he softly hummed the melody Wenders used to sing most often. The next second, the wind surged. Harry sensed it immediately, the exit had appeared. But Oagame, unable to decide, chose to remain where she was. Following the light, Harry moved upward through the lighthouse, only to discover that the exit led to a balcony where bags of potato chips had already been prepared. Moments later, he woke up inside the lighthouse, hearing Shizuku calling out to him in panic. The teddy bear that had once appeared was now gone. In its place stood Wenders, crying uncontrollably. Shizuku explained that the day after she and Harry were separated, she had waited for Wenders at the lighthouse but couldn't find Harry anywhere. Only now had the three of them finally been reunited. Harry could barely remember what had happened during the time he was spirited away. That night, they stayed temporarily at Aunt Mirror's house. In the middle of the night, Wenders quietly came to see him. She wanted to explain that when she had said she would go back, she hadn't meant returning to her hometown. Yet the truth was something she could never quite bring herself to say. Harry told her it didn't matter whether she explained or not. He had already made up his mind. No matter how things ended, he would stay by Wenders' side until the very end. Harry then mentioned that he had met someone with the same name as Wenders, and that the person Wenders had always been searching for was Oagame. When summer ended, Wenders would eventually return to her. Wenders herself was the manifestation of the teddy bear Oagame once held, a form taken by longing born from obsession. When Harry presented his gift, the two of them confirmed their feelings for each other. But when Harry woke up the next morning and saw Wenders beside him, he was momentarily at a loss. The gentle memories of the previous night still lingered in his mind. Outside the door, Shizuku silently watched everything unfold. For a moment, she thought the two of them had disappeared again. When she reread Oagame's diary, she gradually came to understand that the Wenders before her was not truly human. And yet, she undeniably existed, a friend who could be touched, someone who could stay with them until the final moments of summer. That was when Harry proposed a plan. During the final week before Wenders' departure, they would treat every single day as a celebration, living out all of life's important moments at once. To make it happen, Harry asked friends from around the island for help, including Naruse. Together with Shizuku, he decided that the last day of summer would be Wenders' birthday, complete with a surprise known only to them. Shizuku quickly came up with the perfect plan. And so, the three of them, along with their friends, spent several short but fulfilling days together. Happiness passed by in the blink of an eye. On the second to last day, they celebrated Christmas inside the lighthouse, exchanging gifts. Wenders gave them a spare key to the lighthouse, hoping they would return even if she was gone. Shizuku presented an exaggerated gift that filled the room with laughter, and Harry joined in the teasing. Laughter echoed through the lighthouse until it suddenly stopped. Even as Wenders smiled, tears began to fall. Shizuku pulled her into an embrace and gently comforted her. In that moment, the three of them finally spoke their true feelings aloud. On the morning of the last day of summer, Shizuku left first, giving Harry and Wenders their final moments alone. Suddenly, the wind rose again, and Wenders vanished before Harry's eyes. Panicked, Harry searched frantically. In the next instant, Wenders reappeared at the lighthouse entrance. The pain of briefly losing the one he loved drove Harry to express his feelings once more, just so he could remember her voice and her face. That night, Harry prepared the final surprise. Outside the lighthouse, countless candles lit up the darkness, each made from empty potato chip canisters. Harry told her that today was her birthday. Hand in hand, the two of them walked to the seaside. Wenders began to recall the past, telling her story. She said Oagame had been her only friend, and that the song was a melody Oagame used to sing often. After coming to Torishiro Island, unable to make friends, Oagame had only the doll for companionship until she later met Kato. But Oagame eventually vanished in a case of spiriting away. Wenders chose to take her place so the world wouldn't forget Oagame, while continuing to search for her. One day, Kato told Wenders to go do what she truly wanted to do. But at the time, Wenders didn't know what that was, so they waited quietly at the lighthouse. During that time, Wenders grew close to Shizuku, eventually met Harry, and fell in love with him. When the clock struck midnight, their summer came to an end. Wenders returned to her original form, and Shizuku silently stood by her side, facing the loss together. Just before Harry was about to leave, he heard that familiar melody once more, as if promising that summer would return again next year.